The moment everyone noticed, it started on a quiet evening in Los Angeles. Cameras flashed, people smiled, and reporters waited outside a small art event that Alexandra Grant was hosting. She walked in gracefully, wearing her calm confidence like a shield. Everyone was watching, but they were waiting for one face, Keanu Reeves. For months, rumors had spread that something had changed between them. Some said they had grown apart. Others whispered that they were still together but keeping things private. Neither confirmed anything. They both stayed silent, choosing peace over gossip. But that night, when Alexandra stepped onto the red carpet alone, the air felt different, heavier, like the silence before a storm. A journalist asked gently, "Is Keanu coming tonight?" She smiled softly and said, "He always supports art in his own way." Her words were kind, but her eyes carried a quiet ache, the kind that only love leaves behind. Across the city, Keanu sat in his small kitchen, far away from the noise. A cup of tea beside him, his phone face down, his mind somewhere else entirely. He had seen the news about the event, read the messages from friends telling him to show up, but he didn't. Not because he didn't care, but because he cared too much. Love, for Keanu, had always been sacred, private, fragile. He never wanted the world to pick it apart. But that night, he felt something break quietly inside. He missed her laugh, her calm presence, the way she always reminded him to breathe when the world moved too fast. As the night went on, the internet lit up with new headlines. Alexandra Grant attends alone. Has Keanu Reeves moved on? Fans debated endlessly, some angry, some heartbroken. But behind all the noise was a truth no one knew. Neither of them had moved on. They were both just trying to find peace in different ways. Alexandra returned home late that night. The city was quiet, the air cool. She took off her heels, walked to her studio and looked at a half-finished painting. Two figures standing apart, reaching toward each other through a wall of glass. She picked up her brush, her hand trembling, and whispered, "I wonder if he still thinks of me." Meanwhile, Keanu stepped outside his house, looking up at the stars. He didn't say it out loud, but his thoughts echoed hers. He still thought of her every day, the way she made him laugh, the way she understood his silence better than anyone else. Sometimes love doesn't end with a fight. Sometimes it simply waits, patient, silent, and hopeful. And as the night sky spread over Los Angeles, two souls under the same stars still carried the same quiet question in their hearts. Is love ever really gone, or does it just change shape? The message no one saw days turned into weeks, and still no one knew what had really happened between them. Fans kept watching, hoping for a sign, a glance, a comment, anything. But Keanu stayed out of the spotlight, working quietly on his next film, while Alexandra poured her emotions into her art. From the outside, it looked like two people moving on, but inside, something still tied them together. One cold morning, Keanu woke before sunrise. His home was quiet, only the soft hum of the city outside. He walked into his small study, where an old camera sat on the table, a gift from Alexandra. She had once told him, "Every photo is a memory trying to stay alive." He smiled faintly at the thought, remembering the way she said it, her voice calm and certain. On impulse, he picked up his phone and typed a message. "I saw one of your new paintings online. It's beautiful. I hope you're doing okay." He stared at the screen for a long time, thumb hovering over send. But something stopped him. Maybe fear, maybe pride, maybe just the thought that she didn't need to hear from him anymore. Finally, he locked his phone and placed it face down again. The message stayed unsent. On the other side of the city, Alexandra was in her studio, painting under the pale morning light. She hadn't slept much. Every brushstroke she painted felt like a conversation with him, unfinished, quiet, and full of longing. When her phone buzzed, she glanced at it, hoping it might be him. but it was just another gallery request, another interview offer. She sighed, setting it aside. That same afternoon, a small article appeared online. Keanu Reeves buys mystery painting for private collection. And no one knew the artist's name, but Alexandra did. She recognized the description instantly. It was hers, a piece titled, "The One Who Never Said Goodbye." She froze, her breath catching in her throat. No one had known that the painting was about him. No one except her assistant, who quietly helped send it to auction, and now, somehow, it was in his hands. That night, Keanu unpacked the painting in his living room. The canvas showed two silhouettes under the same sky, separated by a single streak of light. He stood there for a long time, tracing the lines with his eyes, remembering the way she painted with her heart. "You still talk to me through color," he whispered. He took out a small frame from his shelf, a photo of them smiling at her first exhibition years ago. He placed it next to the painting, his eyes soft with memory. He didn't need to send the message anymore. Somehow, she had already answered it. And across the city, Alexandra looked up at the same moon, whispering to herself. He found it. Sometimes love doesn't need words. It speaks through silence, through art, through the moments that never fade. The interview that changed everything. A few weeks later, Keanu appeared on a talk show, his first public appearance in months. The host smiled warmly, asking about his new movie, his life, and the secret behind his calm nature. He answered softly, humble as always, his tone thoughtful and kind. But then came a question he didn't expect. "Keanu," the host said gently, "people have been wondering if you and Alexandra Grant are still close. She just released a collection that seems deeply personal." For a moment, the room went quiet. The audience leaned forward, waiting. Keanu smiled, but there was a flicker of sadness in his eyes, the kind that only someone who truly loved could carry. "Alexandra," he said softly, "is one of the most genuine people I've ever known. Her art comes from her soul. Even if we walk different paths now, she'll always inspire me." His voice trembled slightly at the end, but he didn't hide it. He never did. He believed in truth, even when it hurt. The clip went viral within hours. Millions watched it, sharing it with captions like, "Keanu still speaks with love." Fans commented how his eyes told the real story, that the connection between them was far from over. Alexandra saw the interview the next morning. She had promised herself not to watch it, but curiosity won. When she heard his words, her hands froze. She replayed the clip 3 times, studying every expression, every pause. He hadn't said her name to the world carelessly. He had said it with respect, with love still hidden beneath the surface. That afternoon, her phone rang. It was her gallery assistant, saying a man had purchased another one of her paintings anonymously. This one was titled, "After the Silence." Alexandra didn't need to ask who it was. She already knew. That evening she went for a walk near the beach. The sunset spilled colors across the sky, soft pink, gold, and fading blue, almost like one of her canvases. She took a deep breath and whispered, "Thank you, Keanu." She didn't know if he'd ever hear it, but maybe some feelings didn't need distance to reach someone's heart. Meanwhile, Keanu sat quietly in his home, the second painting resting on his wall. He stared at it, remembering the scent of her studio, paint, rain, and lavender. He missed that. Not the fame, not the noise, just the calm moments where nothing had to be said. Later that night, his phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number. "I saw the interview. Thank you for speaking kindly." He stared at it for a while before replying. It was never kindness. It was truth. For the first time in months, both of them smiled at the same moment, miles apart, but connected again through something unbreakable. Sometimes love doesn't need to return to life. It just needs to be remembered with honesty, And that's enough to make it real again. The dinner that wasn't planned, after the talk show moment, life moved faster for both of them. Alexandra's new exhibition was announced in New York, and Keanu's film tour brought him to the same city at the same time. Neither of them planned it, neither expected it. But life, in its quiet way, loves to test unfinished stories. Alexandra arrived 2 days before the opening. The gallery was bright and full of energy, but her heart was uneasy. Her assistant mentioned that invitations had gone out to many well-known names, actors, directors, art collectors. When she glanced at the list, her breath caught. Keanu's name was there. She tried to stay calm, pretending it didn't affect her. But that night, she stood in front of her mirror for a long time, wondering what she would say if he actually showed up. Would she smile and talk about art? Would she pretend it didn't hurt to see him again? Or would she tell him the truth, that she never stopped loving him, even in the silence? The night of the exhibition came. Photographers crowded outside, lights flashing as guests entered. Alexandra walked through the gallery, greeting people, thanking them, but her eyes kept drifting toward the door. Then, halfway through the evening, he walked in. Keanu, dressed simply in black, his hair slightly messy from the wind. The moment he entered, the crowd hushed. He didn't look like a superstar. He looked like a man searching for something, or maybe someone. Their eyes met across the room, and time slowed. He approached quietly. "Your work is stunning," he said softly. She smiled, steady but trembling inside. "Thank you for coming." They walked together through the gallery, stopping in front of a painting called Two Sides of the Same Light. It showed two figures separated by distance, but sharing the same horizon. "This one," he whispered. "It feels familiar." "It should," she said. "It's the one I started the night you left Los Angeles." He looked at her, guilt flickering in his eyes. "I didn't mean to leave that way. I thought I was protecting you." She shook her head. "You weren't protecting me, Keanu. You were protecting your pain." There was no anger in her voice, only truth. For a moment neither spoke. The noise of the crowd faded around them. Then she said quietly, "Do you want to talk somewhere quieter?" Minutes later they slipped out the back door unnoticed and walked down a rain-damp street. They found a small cafe still open, warm light glowing through the windows. They sat by the corner table just like old times. For the first time in years, they talked freely about work, loss, love, and the strange peace that comes when two people understand each other without trying to fix what's broken. He reached across the table, brushing his fingers against hers. "I never stopped thinking about you," he said. She met his eyes, her voice barely a whisper. "Then why did you let me go?" His eyes softened. "Because I thought you deserved someone who didn't carry as much pain as me. But now I see that maybe you were the only one who ever helped me carry it." Silence fell, but this time it wasn't heavy. It was healing. Outside, the city lights shimmered like quiet stars. Sometimes love doesn't ask for forever. Sometimes it just asks for one more honest moment. And that night, over tea and rain, they found it. The night the truth finally spoke. After that quiet dinner, something changed between them. They didn't rush back into each other's lives, but they didn't drift apart either. There were small messages, late-night calls, shared silence that no longer hurt. They were learning to breathe again. Together, but gently. Still, old fears are slow to fade. One evening, Keanu was invited to a charity gala in New York. Alexandra's work was being auctioned there, so both of them would attend. When he arrived, the room glowed with elegance. Soft music, golden lights, laughter echoing across the hall. But when he saw her standing near the stage, wearing a simple black gown and calm smile, his heart skipped the way it once did. He waited until the crowd thinned before approaching her. "You look beautiful," he said quietly. She smiled. Oh, you always say that when you're nervous. He chuckled softly, and for a moment it felt like years melted away. But before they could say more, the host announced the final item for auction, Alexandra's latest painting titled The Truth That Stayed. It showed two figures standing under heavy rain, hands almost touching. The crowd murmured in admiration. As the bids began, Keanu stayed silent, just watching. The painting was more than art. It was confession. He could see it in every color, every line. And then, as the final bid came in, he did something no one expected. He raised his hand. The room went quiet. Whispers spread quickly. Keanu Reeves was bidding. When the auctioneer closed the sale, the applause filled the hall. But Keanu didn't care about the noise. His eyes were only on her. After the event, they met outside in the cool night air. Alexandra's eyes shimmered under the streetlight. "You didn't have to do that," she said softly. "I know," he replied, "but I wanted to keep the truth close." She looked at him, tears forming. "You always had it, Keanu. I never took it away." The city hummed around them, cars, laughter, the sound of rain beginning to fall again. Keanu stepped closer, his voice quiet and raw. "I spent so long thinking love had to be perfect to be real. But you showed me that it's okay to be broken, as long as it's honest." She smiled, a tear slipping down her cheek. "Maybe that's what love really is. Honesty that forgives." He reached out, brushing the tear gently away. "Then, forgive me," he whispered. "I already did," she said. And there, under the same rain that had once separated them, they stood close again, not as the people they used to be, but as the ones who had survived everything that came between them. Neither of them said the words, "I love you." They didn't need to. The silence between them said it louder than words ever could. As the rain grew heavier, she laughed softly. "You realize every time it rains, you find me?" He smiled. "Maybe the universe knows we still have things to say." And in that moment, it felt like the universe was finally listening. The peace they waited years to find weeks passed after the gala, but something gentle lingered between them. Keanu had returned to Los Angeles and Alexandra remained in New York, but this time the distance didn't hurt. They wrote to each other often, not long messages, just soft words that carried warmth. Sometimes all he would write was, "Are you sleeping well?" And she would reply, "Better now." It was simple, but real. One evening, Alexandra received an invitation to an art and film collaboration event in Japan. Her gallery suggested inviting Keanu to speak about creativity and healing. She hesitated at first, then smiled to herself and said, "Send it." A month later, under the calm Tokyo night, the event began. The hall was quiet, filled with artists, filmmakers, and dreamers. Keanu walked onto the stage with his usual grace, humble, thoughtful, his voice low and kind. When he spoke about art and love, he didn't use big words. He just said, "Sometimes creation comes from loss, but healing comes from sharing." And then, when Alexandra joined him on stage for the final talk, the audience fell silent. Two souls who had once drifted apart were now standing side by side again, not as broken lovers, but as two people who finally understood each other's silence. After the event, they walked through the lantern-lit streets of Tokyo. Cherry blossoms drifted through the night air, glowing under streetlights. Keanu stopped and looked at her, the soft pink petals resting on her hair. "You always find beauty in endings," he said. She smiled, looking up at the falling petals. "Maybe because endings are just new beginnings, wearing a disguise." They walked to a quiet bridge overlooking the city. Below them, the water reflected thousands of lights, moving softly like memories that refused to fade. Keanu took a deep breath. "Alexandra, I don't know what we are now, but I know what we'll always be. People who didn't give up on kindness. She nodded. We may not go back to what we were, Keanu, but that's okay. Love doesn't always need to stay. Sometimes it just needs to leave light behind. They stood together, watching the reflections dance. There was no grand confession, no movie-like ending, just peace. And maybe that was the real love story all along. Before parting, she handed him a small envelope. "Open it later," she said with a smile. That night, back in his hotel room, Keanu opened the envelope. Inside was a small sketch, 2 hands almost touching, drawn in her delicate style. Under it she had written, "We don't need forever to make something eternal." He sat there for a long time, smiling through quiet tears. Outside, the rain began to fall again, gentle, rhythmic, and healing, just like the love that never truly left. The next morning, he left a note at her door. It said, "Thank you for teaching me that love isn't about holding on. It's about remembering without pain." And as she read it, Alexandra whispered softly, "Goodbye, my peace." They didn't need another chapter. Their story had already become something rare. Love that turned into gratitude, and somewhere, under the same sky, Keanu Reeves and Alexandra Grant finally found what the world spends a lifetime searching for. Peace that feels like love.